ahead. It's your show.
Five. All right, good evening. Welcome to the March 21st meeting of the Community Development Advisory Committee. And happy spring to everybody watching at home. Roll call. Everybody's in attendance except for Al Giffen, who is absent with notice. I was talking with the mayor earlier today. He did send his regrets for not being able to step in and just sit in for the meeting today. Apparently he has football tryouts. I'm pretty sure it's his grandson, but he'd probably make a pretty good linebacker. So, declaration of pecuniary interest. Seeing none. Approval of the minutes from the February 13th minutes. Any questions, comments, concerns about the minutes? If not, we'll need a mover to accept and a seconder. Brad moving and Councillor Pelquin seconded. Any questions to the motion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We have no presentations, delegations, petitions, or communications this evening. We do have unfinished business. I'll throw it to Director Lilborn for the Municipal Alcohol Policy Review and Update.
Well, I would love that my mic would work, but my mic is not working for some unknown reason.
We'll pause for station identification, or are we good?
I guess I'll just talk loud. Al Giffen just joined us, so we will welcome Al to the meeting. The municipal alcohol policy. So last meeting I asked, I provided everyone with a copy of the alcohol policy. Actually, I've provided a couple copies of the same revised document. We did have a member of the Strathroy Jets attend the last meeting to have a conversation about a potential change that staff were recommending. I suggested to the committee that take the next month, do some homework, look into things, and we can go from there. I took my own advice, reached out to some other smaller municipalities who also have liquor licensing in their tiered seating to find out what approach they took with alcohol being served in tiered seatings and when they chose to cut it off. Larger venues cut it off at the start of the third period, and the smaller venues tend to allow that go into the third period. None that I approached allowed it to go to the end of the game, but they did allow it to go into the third period, some to the point of only 5 minutes left in the game. So I leave it up to the committee to have some discussion around the recommendation or the change that staff would put forward. I do want to do I need to remember that a lot of the members here are new. Some of the one member's probably been here since I've been here, which is Brad, and Adrian's been with us for the last term. When we developed the municipal alcohol policy, we actually developed the municipal alcohol policy using this toolkit. It's about a 400-page document that helps us walk through drafting a municipal alcohol policy. In this document is and I've lost it already, is a checklist with regards to what we refer to as a blue ribbon municipal alcohol policy. They have sections within this checklist that refers to designation of properties and events, management's practices, prevention strategies, action to enforce, signs, policy statement, and so on. And each check mark gives you a certain number of check marks, gives you a certain percentage when you're said and done. When we went through the checklist, when we wrote the policy, we have an 87% out of 100 for quality of a municipal alcohol policy, actually. And you're okay if I share my screen, Melanie? Yeah. Okay. So what you'll see on the screen is that document that I'm referring to. And each check mark, so for example, designation of properties and events. You get 3 check marks, you get 7 marks. So that'd be, you get 3 times 6.6, which then gives you 20 out of 20. I've gone through our municipal alcohol policy, and underneath the designation of properties and events, we received 3 check marks. So that gives us 20 marks. So properties eligible for SOPs is on page 4. Right? So I've gone through the entire document to identify what page each checkbox equates to. Properties not eligible for SOPs is on page 4. Events not eligible for SOPs is on page 5. And I went through the whole document. Where we do not score full marks is under actions to enforce. We do have 3 boxes there. 1, we have outline procedures for handling infractions. That's on page 3 and page 9. We do not spell out in the municipal alcohol policy what we're going to do if there are infractions. And we need to remember, when we created the municipal alcohol policy, this municipal alcohol policy was created when the municipality never had one. So we didn't want to come across as heavy-handed. So if, Hometown Festival, as an example, is having an event, I don't want to go down and say, okay, well, you have an infraction, so this is step 1. If you get step 2, you don't get to have your event next year. We wanted to allow for some flexibility and judgment. So we haven't had those issues that we've experienced at different events and so on. Am I going to say that all events have gone smoothly? No. There are always challenges that occur, whether it is security matters or people who have overconsumed or so on. Those have happened before. I just wanted to share with you that when we pulled together the municipal alcohol policy, that we actually scored quite high on this, what they refer to as a quality measure form. So I will leave it there. If any committee members have any comments or concerns or thoughts, or if they think we should be revising the municipal alcohol policy, staff aren't tied to this policy by any stretch of the imagination. We can gladly adjust it if the committee feels we need to. Like I said, we've ticked every box except for a couple.
Councillor Palmer?
These aren't working. No light.
Not working either?
No light.
Might be that whole side.
There's no power.
Yeah, there's nothing.
None of them are.
Okay.
Talk really loud.
Okay. I have 2 things. The first one is page 7, Rob, under safe transportation. Only event organizers implementing a safe transportation strategy will have access to the use. What is a safe transportation strategy, and should we define that?
So safe transportation strategy is simply putting a sign up saying, utilize, if you've been drinking or driving, if you've been drinking, don't drive, take a cab. And we're asking people to actually put up local cab companies or drive with a sober friend. So
is that in the handout that the applicant will get, or do we need to define that?
we can define it if you like.
I think even just like, for example.
Yep, we can put that.
Just put, for example, signage, taxi numbers.
So in the policy, there is a section under signs, and this sign actually has on the bottom of it that says, if drinking, plan ahead, call a cab or a sober friend. Don't drink and drive. Look for posted options at the bar and entry of facility. So what we're looking for is the renter to put up Leo's Taxi at the bar and at the entrance of the facility. I don't want to go into identifying specific cab companies or phone numbers because those change from time to time. So we've left it generic. They have to show us that they're doing it as when we do a walkthrough of the facility.
It's just, it may raise questions, what's a safe transportation strategy? So maybe you just want to add a little sentence after that that says, for example, taxi companies or whatever.
Not a problem.
And then the second thing was about the tiered seating and the cutoff time. So based on what you're saying, from your research, there seems to be quite a bit of variance. The policy right now says no sales once the third period starts, correct? Or the 8th inning or 9th inning?
See, that depends. If it's a 7-inning game, it would be the 5th inning. If it's a 9-inning game, it would be the 7th inning.
What about if I'm just wondering if there's a compromise. What if it was like 10 or 15 minutes into the third period? Would that, do you think, I don't think there's anybody here tonight, but would that sort of allow people to settle a little bit, still give enough time before the end of the game? It's just a thought.
10 or 15 minutes regular time, or 10 or 15 minutes hockey time into the third period? Because there's a difference.
Right, clock time.
Okay.
So from a staff perspective, I don't think it makes that big of a difference to us. The largest concerns that staff had when we put this proposal forward was the increased liability that the municipality exposes itself if it allows further drinking in tiered seating. So it's navigating the stairs up and down, right? It's the potential for falls. If you have that one more drink.
But I could have 3 at intermissions.
No, agreed. Agreed, other than the fact that the bartender shouldn't be serving you 3 drinks, right? So if they're following the municipal alcohol policy, they can only provide you 2 drinks at a time. They cannot provide you 3. So for me, from a staff perspective, I don't really have an issue with it. If we were to say 10 minutes left in the third period, or if we say 5 minutes left in the third period, my desire would be that the bar needs to close prior to the end of the third period. And I don't care if it's 5-5 going into the end of the third period with 5 minutes left, they don't get to keep it open for overtime, right? Is that?
Councillor Poplin?
Yeah, so my recollection is that they're, the one group that made a presentation about it is that they're packing up and moving over to the Westcast room anyways. So I would be hesitant to go beyond 5 minutes into the third period. That allows, any spillover time if they haven't got their drink yet, they can grab some and get back into the stands to watch the end of the game. I mean, hockey's, while it does slow down a little bit, it's not like basketball where it takes an hour to play the last 2 minutes, right? 20 minutes is virtually 20 minutes unless there's a lot of fights or stuff like that. So I don't see, from the one group that presented to us, I don't see 5 minutes into the third period as being hampering their process because they got to tear down and reset up in the Westcast anyways.
Agreed. Right now, we're allowing them to go about 5 minutes into the third period now, and it seems to be working. They were asking for hopefully that we would be able to go. They'd be able to go longer, and correct me if I'm wrong. They were citing a family event that they want to encourage people to stay and that kind of thing. And I don't mean to be putting words in their mouth, but I believe that was the gist of the presentation. They transfer from the stands into the Westcast room so the players and their families can have a drink together after the game. That was the intentions, and some fans, I'm assuming, Chris, you've been to a few games, I understand, migrate into the Westcast room as well, which is totally acceptable and fine. Again, it just goes back to how much risk do we want to expose the municipality to with regards to the serving of alcohol and how far into that third period.
Adrian?
Would the municipality be willing to do a trial period to see if an extension does have an effect on? I agree with the compromise. I think that because they have been good patrons and it is a good thing for this team. They're saying that they want it, but I can see where the hesitation's coming from. Is it worth doing a trial for a year to see how that comes out?
don't have a problem with the trial. The only thing is what we do for one, we need to be prepared to do for all. So if we have another team that wants to serve alcohol in the stands, the trial's not just for the Strathroy Jets. The trials must be for organization A, B, C, D, E, all the way through Z, right? So what we do for one, we need to be prepared to do for all. I'm fine with the trial period. Again, it'll be a recommendation that comes from this committee up to council for further conversation, should it warrant.
Councillor Pelton.
From a staffing perspective, who's policing that? Is it the operators? Because as they get closer to the end of the game, they got to move back to the back of the arena, right? So, at what point is too late for them to be monitoring to see if they've actually stopped the sale of alcohol?
If I can step in, the last 3 games I've been to, tear down, average, and move to Westcast was probably 15, 20 minutes. That was what I got when I timed it. Nobody knew I was timing it, obviously, but tear down and completely move to Westcast, well, 15, 20 minutes of regular time. So I don't know what that does to extend the alcohol sales in the stands. They're gonna be still spending 15, 20 minutes trying to get to the Westcast room well after the game's over. Maybe getting it all torn down before the game's over allows for an easy transition for the families to go to the Westcast room and the bar already be set up.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
I was just thinking from if, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, what's our insurance company going to say if we have an incident, right? And if we leave it too late, that it's not possible for the staff to police it, then we've opened the door for saying that the municipality was negligent on ensuring that it was shut down when it was supposed to. So I think if to me, 5 minutes into the third period seems to be like enough time for them to tear down comfortably, get set up. It allows a little bit of bleed over into the third period to extend their alcohol sales. And I think our staff are probably still able to police that.
So you're correct with regards to, at some point, staff need to work their way to the back room to prep for the next flood. 5 to 7 minutes seem to have been working with the Jets currently. The fact that it takes 15 to 20 minutes to break down the bar and move it to the Westcast room probably takes you to about maybe the 10-minute mark, maybe of the third period. Yeah. So, do we say 5 or do we say 10? It's fine with me if we saw it off at 10 minutes and see if that becomes problematic. Then we can revisit it. We don't need to go a year. If it's problematic for 2 or 3 games, it'll be problematic for 5 or 6, right? So we can always revisit that time frame. The only thing is it's easier to give than it is to take away. So keeping that in mind as well.
Steve?
What's the purpose of this policy to begin with?
The purpose behind the policy?
Yeah, I just generally, I'm thinking like, do they stop serving Coke? Do they stop serving chips? Do they stop serving that stuff? Like, to me, it's like, is it because you want everybody to get out on time? Why, like, and liability wise, if those people got to have $1 million liability, if something happens, isn't it their liability that covers it, not ours?
Yeah, our policy actually requires them to have $5 million. This is
older
one would be 5. Back when we wrote the policy, originally it was 1, then our insurance company has told us that we need to require a minimum of 5 million. They actually would like 9. The problem is with liquor liability cases, generally you're paying for someone's injuries for life. So their 5 million will get tapped first, then the municipality will be paying whatever is remaining. So if you have someone who ends up getting injured significantly, can't work anymore, loses their job, needs to have round-the-clock care or extensive physio, that will be on our insurance company. That would be end up being, once that $5 million runs out.
Yeah, they're gonna go looking, okay.
Then, it'll be us. It'll be the municipality. The purpose of the policy with regards to the jets themselves, not the jets, sorry, the serving of alcohol in the tiered seating, isn't about cutting out the sale of chips or pop or whatever, because that's being sold out of the concession. This is just a bar. So they would shut the bar down, relocate the bar to the Westcast room. The concession would continue to remain operational. So they're still selling pop and chips and so on. The overall objective of this policy is on page number 3, which talks about to ensure the event organizers have a clear understanding of the appropriate and acceptable practices of serving alcohol during licensed events. The objective will be met by assisting event organizers with compliance of the special occasions permit as outlined by the Alcohol Gaming Commission of Ontario, training and education of event organizers in a safe operation of SOP licensed events, reinforcing appropriate procedure and controls to ensure responsible drinking practices, explaining the benefits of providing alternative non-alcoholic drinks and appropriate food. That is the objective. Prior to having this municipal alcohol policy, I attended different events, and there were event organizers consuming alcohol. That's against the law. Not just against our policy, it's against the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario's Liquor Licensing Control Act. Any event worker who's a door monitor, ticket seller, or whatever cannot consume alcohol. They are responsible for the people who are in that building. So they cannot be consuming alcohol. We don't have a policy to oversee that or to at least control that. Then we, as a municipality, become negligent. When we're negligent, we're exposed. Whether or not they have $5 million liability insurance, if it can be proven we're negligent, then we're exposed. The municipal alcohol policy is just one of those documents that helps close up that exposure, helps reduce that exposure.
I think, Rob, mine was more specific, the policy of the cutoff time in the third period.
Okay.
What's the purpose behind it? Like, is it to help get cleaned up? Is it to make sure no one consumes any more alcohol? What's the purpose of it? Like,
okay. So the when the council received this letter back in December, I sent an email back out to the councillors, and there was just let me find it in the response. There were 3 reasons why we feel cutting the sale of alcohol off in the start of the third period, the beginning of the third period, or partway through the third period. There's 3 reasons. The municipality doesn't want to be seen as encouraging overconsumption. Right? That's number 1. 2, the increased risk of injury navigating the tiered seating before, during, and after the game. And that's, as you drink more, your dexterity changes, your ability to navigate stairs and so on is compromised, depending on how much you've had to drink. The rule of thumb is 1 drink every hour and a half, you will be sober, so you won't be intoxicated. You are not allowed to serve to intoxication. So we need to be cautious about what we're doing. And then 3 is, and this one's not really, it's a reason but not the main reason, and that is to ensure that the public is not sitting in the stands continuing to drink while our staff are trying to get cleaned up and close the building down, right? So we're trying to move people out of that space. But that's not the primary reason. The primary reasons are the first 2. We don't want to be seen providing over or encouraging overconsumption, and the risk to the increased liability of navigating and descending the stairs.
Councillor Pelkman, you raised your hand there.
I did. Yeah, I was just going to add with the insurance costs. I mean, our insurance numbers, I believe, are in the 600,000, and 10 and 13% increases aren't uncommon because of the joint liability. So the landmark court case that kind of broke that wide open was somebody who was speeding in Caledon. They were, I believe, intoxicated, went off the road because it was a windy road, And the judge found that the municipality was negligent because they didn't have a windy road sign. So despite the fact that the person was speeding at a high rate of speed, was intoxicated, that didn't matter. The municipality bore the brunt of the lawsuit because they had deep pockets and a big insurance policy. And so insurance policies across the province went up significantly.
The liability insurance just for the West Middlesex, as an example, I currently have budgeted at $45,280. Back in 2021, it was $35,000, right? So significant jump within 2 years. That's just for West Middlesex. Gemini, if I find my liability insurance line, Gemini is 31,000 is what we've got budgeted at Gemini. Right. So again, the costs. So between those two rinks were $70,000, right? Just for liability insurance. That's our premium.
Steve?
Why not raise that minimum from 5 million to 9 million then?
Our insurance company would love you, but our renters would hate you.
Yeah, have they looked into that to see what the premium change would be to have something like that?
Going from 1 million to 5 million was significant, so I could only imagine going from 5 to 9 now. I don't know what the value would be, but that's always an option.
Right.
It doesn't reduce our exposure though, right? We're still going to be exposed because of joint several liability.
Well, it does though, because we're raising to 9 million, which would cover 4 more million, right?
Well, it would, but it doesn't take long to get to 4 million.
And would that reduce, let's say we did run a policy like that, would that reduce our premiums on our facilities because of that? So their insurance board would look at it and say, hey man, they got 9 million, well, that means we're not ever gonna have to cover this stuff, right?
The only thing is, I also don't want to price ourselves out of
True.
renting of our
I'm with you
facilities.
there, yeah.
But going to 9 million, would it reduce our premiums?
It
I
should.
can't answer that question, right? I don't know. I'd have to ask our insurance company that question. But my concern is we're going to be getting to a point where we may be pricing ourselves out of business.
Councillor Pammer.
I don't think like raising the liability really changes what could happen if there was an incident. If something happens, they're going to look at, did the municipality have procedures and bylaws in place that would prevent an incident? They don't really, they'll sue to the max whatever we have. So I don't think that changes. I think what this policy really is, and the cutoff time is so in a case of an incident, we can say, well, we did the best we could. Right? We did our best. We had a policy that would hopefully curtail excess drinking and limit the risk of somebody falling down the stairs in the tiered seating. We did what we could. If we don't have that, or if we let it go to the end, then an insurance company, or a good lawyer rather, not an insurance company, a lawyer would turn around and say, well, you let them drink, right, an extra 30 minutes, and you let them drink right to the end, and they got wasted and they fell down the stairs. So I don't think that would change anything.
Any other questions, comments? Adrian?
In regards to the municipal alcohol policy, I took the time to review 5 other municipal alcohol policies from communities of similar sizes. And from what I gathered, the Strathroy document is good and it covers all the points, but it's not as thorough as the rest of them seem to be, which brings me to Councillor Pam and your question about looking for explanations into different areas. Maybe taking the time to expand on our policy would be beneficial to the people that are renting the facilities, might make it a little bit more clearer. A lot of them included rationales throughout their statements and why it's in place to help people understand. But I didn't find anything that was missing necessarily. So it's good, but I think that there's definitely room for improvement.
Okay, thank you. Jagger, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. Would there be an adjustment in the liability if we were to agree to this 10-minute cutoff? Would there be another assessment as far as the liability for insurance?
No, not likely. Our liability insurance is really a blanket coverage. So it's not necessarily based on events, it's more based on the facility and the activities that take place in that facility. We have several liquor events that take place in that venue that go well beyond 10 o'clock at night. But they're all on level floor, level ground. Unlike in a sporting venue in tiered seating, the navigation of going up and down, right? So again, from a staff perspective, I have no issues with modifying the time that we're currently working on a trial period or not on a trial period, or keeping it what we've been doing. I believe it seems to be working. I've been to a couple games, not very many games. My one daughter goes to all of them, it seems. But I have not noticed significant issues when I'm there, which is one of the reasons why I don't go to every game, is because I haven't noticed significant issues and I haven't been made aware of significant issues. Doesn't mean there aren't issues.
Councillor Pelkman.
So maybe then, just because we're kind of having a circular discussion here, if Adrian seems to think there are points where we could tighten up the policy, that we defer this until next month and have an opportunity to look at those suggestions. Does that work?
Yeah, I have no issues going through and looking at. Adrian shared those policies with me. I have no issues going through it. Word of caution: the thicker you make the policy, the less people read it. So it's part of this was done on purpose, was to try to keep it simple. We did have a policy when we wrote it originally, was much larger, and at the time, Dave Gruchin and myself spent a significant amount of time trying to condense the policy because it was so large. Because we did a lot of what those other municipalities did. But I can go through and look at it and see if there's places where we can bolster some of the areas. If there's ideas such as Councillor Palmer had with regards to the safe transportation, and just adding a couple lines is simple, but going in and adding 3 or 4 paragraphs to a document that's already relatively thick, I don't know if they're going to get read. Even though we ask people to read it, a lot of the times they go to the signature pages and just sign. We have a checklist in the back asking to make sure that they've done this, done this, done this, done this. But I don't have a problem going through and seeing if there's places where we can bolster it. I don't want to make it so large that we're not going to read it.
Councillor Pelkman.
And just maybe to give direction. So from a staffing perspective, you say 10 minutes into this third period is okay?
Yeah, I believe so.
Then let's recommend at least the 10-minute mark into the third period, and then you can tighten up some of the wording and bring it back for approval. So I'll make that a motion.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor, any, Greg?
Question on that. Are we going to include any of the baseball that stops 2 innings before the end? Are we going to go past that mark too, or are we just going to apply to hockey?
Well, I mean, they didn't seem to have any issues with it and didn't make a presentation. So until they have an issue with it and come forward and saying the 7th inning isn't good enough.
So we have never had a baseball team sell alcohol in tiered seating. So typically those tournaments will have a beer tent, and they'll be at picnic tables. So they would be able to serve for the duration of the event until their permit runs out. If their permit says 11 o'clock, then they got to back everything up, an hour before. They got to vacate the tables and so on.
Not a lot of tiered seating. Not a lot of tiered seating around the fields.
No.
You want to reword your motion so we're clear, Councillor Pelkman? Or just re-say it, please? 10 minutes in the third
That we
period?
recommend the stopping the sale of alcohol in tiered seating 10 minutes into the third period, 10 minutes hockey time into the third period. And that the policy be brought back next month for review of some wording that, in the document.
Seconded by Councillor Palmer. Any other questions or comments to the motion?
Can I?
Yes.
Would it be fair, Adrian, if I was to do a little bit of back and forth with you, if that's okay? I appreciate the comment. I'm just concerned about the amount of content. So if we can work back and forth together, then I'd be totally great with that recommendation.
Good with that? So vote for the motion. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Reports of committees and departments. Do I need to recommend that the PTP gets approved first, Melanie? Is that the way it's worded on the agenda, or do we go through the report first and then get the recommendation to approve it?
Yeah, I would do the report.
Is that the other way? Okay, so reports of committees and departments, progress through partnership. Director, you want to take this with the list of projects?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, you saw this this list at our previous meeting. You were asked to review the list. I've received a few additional items. I did not add dollar values to them. I did not place them in a chart. How we scored these the last time is I did a survey to all of the members, and I asked you to rank them. Brad may remember that. Adrian would have remembered that. And then after you rank them, that's how we scored them. The one question I had was, why was playground equipment removed? Because of all of our old playground equipment that wasn't CSA approved has now been dealt with. So that's why that line was removed. The basketball, beach volleyball courts have been completed. So those two items will come off the list. What I can do is, everyone agrees with the additions on the bottom. We're going to need to talk about values in a minute. If everyone agrees with the items on the bottom of the list, then I can recirculate this list and do a survey like I did last time, and then we'll score them and bring them back to the committee for further discussions and so on. One of the reasons I wasn't able to put values to the recommendations or the additions below is because it could be varying. As an example, donation to a playground replacement fund. That could be less than $5,000 or it could be greater than $50,000. So how do I monetize that for a service club or a community group that would like to look at this list and say, okay, yeah, we can peg off that one that's, for $5,000. But if I put it on there and say it's greater than 50, like I'll take $5,000 going to a reserve fund from anybody. But is it 5 or is it 50? So that's the challenge that I'm having. Or do we create another category and we have a range, right? So donation, so let's create another category called donations or sponsorships, and that can be a range. Does everyone pick up what I'm laying down?
Councillor Butland?
Yeah, you could, say for instance, one of the smaller playgrounds that we just did in Mount Bridges, you could have a small, medium, large price range. So that way it would give an idea for a corporate donor or somebody who's willing to donate a larger sum, what something like that would actually cost, because I would never have dreamed that playground equipment was that expensive, right? So, yeah, it just gives somebody an idea about what a realistic donation is for something that they're wanting to do.
You want to respond to that, or can I go?
No, go ahead.
I had a couple of questions before we go to Councillor Palmer. The sponsor wayfinding signage upgrade on that bottom list, how would that work? Would that be somebody wanting to put money towards signage because the municipality already has a budgeted number for their wayfinding strategy? So how would that work?
So when we get to that one, I'd actually consider removing that one, because we do have a wayfinding strategy that has been approved by council, and we're actually executing that program as we speak. You'll start to see this spring new signs going up in parks across Strathroy and Mount Bridges with the new branding. You'll also see destination signs going up, so like West Middlesex, Gemini, Caradoc Community Center, that kind of stuff with the new style of signage. I think where this may come into play is if we want to sponsor a park or something to that effect. And we have a naming rights policy that's more driven around facility asset as opposed to park asset. Doesn't mean we can't look at modifying that policy to include parks and property or create a different one altogether. We are also working on a sponsorship policy, which may fit nicely into this area.
Okay, sorry to jump the gun there. I'll table my second question until when we get to the item down there. Councillor Pammer.
Is this working now? No. Okay.
No, just the right side. These mics are working here, but not the left side.
All right, great. Just Mount Bridges beautification, the planter boxes at the corner of Glendon and Adelaide. I just drove through there today and I saw planter boxes.
Glendon and Adelaide.
You weren't looking. I was coming up from Delaware, and on the right-hand side, I saw the big concrete planters like we have in Strathroy. Do they not have?
You mean the
urns?
The ones that the lights.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
those
so
are
which,
there.
Those are there. So what do you got on the list here?
This
then?
would be in addition to those planters. Now, another one that I would suggest that we remove from the list, because the municipality is currently conducting a design of Franken Front, beautification, underground works road, as well as Adelaide Road through Mount Bridges. So that is all in a design phase at the moment. Don't know when the actual physical construction will be done, but the design work is being done. And once we get to 2 or 3 or 4 options, we'll be going to some public consultation with that in the future.
Well, I just thought this was a duplicate because there is some planter boxes
Yep.
in that corner. It's not that there isn't any.
So for the record, not large planter boxes along the road in Mount Bridges, are there? Because that would just cause.
No, there is. They're big cement, just like the ones we have in Strathroy.
I think Chris is talking about the ones on
The
Caradoc.
ones, not like the ones on Caradoc. Okay.
No.
Just want to be
I'm
clear.
talking about the ones, yeah, that you put plants in.
I'll strike that one from the list.
Okay.
Any other questions? Actually, I might as well ask mine then. Where is it? Sponsor outdoor fitness equipment install or upgrade. Just wondering how the current fitness outdoor equipment is on the Rotary Trail on the Cutting Fields. Are they in pretty good shape, or?
They're not in good shape. One of the challenges we have with that whole stretch is the flooding that occurs. The washing away of the material that we have down for the base. Since we've asphalted the trail through Cuddy Sports Field, we've had next to no erosion of the trail, where every year prior to us putting asphalt down, we were continually having to rebuild that trail. Though that fit equipment has been in now, I want to say about 7 years, it's time for an upgrade or a replacement of that equipment. I struggle putting play equipment in a floodplain. Simply because it gets damaged. The force of ice is unbelievable that can occur to equipment. So I would not suggest we put fit equipment down that stretch. Should we put it somewhere else? Sure, absolutely. And maybe a portion of trail that's dry would be an acceptable area, but I would avoid the floodplain again.
Steve?
What was the usage like on that equipment?
It wasn't. I wouldn't say it was fantastic. I wouldn't say it was, but I wouldn't say it was awful. It would get used when soccer was down there. Now they don't play games down there very often, so we don't get a lot of spectators who would be using the equipment. I would suggest if you were to put a fit trail up at Yorkview Community Park where the Hank Van Dyke soccer field is, and you did a perimeter loop, you would get a lot of parents walking the loop and then using the equipment, simply because it gives the parents something to do. And that's what we saw down in Cuddy when the fields are being used more regularly from soccer. But there's not a lot of games that go on in that field. They're focusing their games out at Bethel Creek, it's called, out on 81 Highway, just outside of town, and up at Yorkview Community Park as well.
Councillor Pammer.
And just as a note to that, the last time I was down there, they've been severely vandalized, unfortunately. So that's another issue we have to deal with.
Adrian, and then Councillor Wilsey.
These ideas, I'd have to say, I submitted these ideas because I went through the Parks and Rec master plan. So that's where these ideas are coming from. So also there was bleachers that were on that list too.
Yes. So Adrian is absolutely correct. Every single one of the items that she's identified here is something that has been identified in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. The wayfinding signage one, again, I think is more around sponsored a park or something like that, as opposed to sponsoring a wayfinding. I think municipality would have a hard time allowing someone else to put their brand on our brand, just to sponsor a sign, wayfinding signage. It actually would go against our branding policy, so we'd have to work with that. Ball hockey rink is something that our department has identified as something that would be very beneficial, whether it is in Strathroy or in Mount Bridges. It's a low expense activity, unstructured recreation, and the basketball courts that you see up at the Fairgrounds Recreation Complex, over at Yorkview Community Park, and now in Salisbury where we have a half court, I cannot believe how busy they are. And it's purely unstructured recreation. Kids show up with the ball and they shoot hoops. I'll be hard pressed to imagine that we'd be building another park without a half court basketball court in it, or some other form of unstructured recreation as opposed to just a play structure. Our whole approach to parks over the past 3 or 4 years is we have them now designed. We just don't get a piece of grass and say, okay, we'll put a climber in there and we're done. We actually engage a landscape architect to come up with a design for our parks. We'll go to public consultation and ask what the public prefers, this idea or this idea. And generally, they'll pick one or the other. There's usually an overwhelming response. We have yet to get one that's down the middle, but we always get additional ideas. Well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? And that's exactly what happened at Salisbury. We did not have a half-court basketball in the original design. And someone made the comment, well, what about the older kids? How about a half-court basketball? So we ended up putting one in, and it is constantly used. We've got two parks, a park in Mount Bridges, well, Ward 2. There's 2 parks we've currently got designed in Ward 2. One is in South Grove, and the other one is in Woods Edge. We have yet to assume those 2 subdivisions in Ward 2, but we already have designs ready for when we do assume those subdivisions. Then we'll be able to get going and building, as opposed to trying to design after we assume them. It takes us 8 months to a year just to get a design out.
The list is good. Thanks, Adrian, for digging that list up. Appreciate it. Councillor Wilsey, and then Councillor Pammer, and then Councillor Bulkman.
2 things. One, on the recycle containers, I think we should be careful because we don't know what the costs are going to be on that. There will be some changes coming through recycle pickup with the producer pay system, where municipal facilities will no longer be included for pickup. So we'll have to make sure that we're careful in looking at how much that's going to cost. The second one that maybe we want to add to the list is emailing earlier this week, maybe earlier today, on dog parks. Somewhere outside of our current one, it seems to be very popular. We're having a lot of people here in Strathroy, and I have people in Mount Bridges, all who walk their dogs currently in Lions Park and through South Creek and some of the other subdivisions are asking for a dog park in Mount Bridges where they can let their dog off leash.
Not sure there's any land, is there?
There is not. It can go on the list even though there's no land, right?
Well, no, and very fair point, Councillor Wilsey. The dog park here in Strathroy, we're starting to collect more data with regards to usage of that facility. And we put in a traffic counter for a week. And we've estimated from that traffic counter that we see over 100 cars a day in the dog park in Strathroy. So if I can just, start to figure out, based on the popularity of that dog park, if we go to put one in Mount Bridges, I would not want to do something smaller than 2 acres. The dog park in Strathroy is 5, and it sees over 100 cars a day. I would suspect that you're probably going to see 30, 40 cars a day in Mount Bridges, right? So if we're going to build a dog park, I would like to make sure we do it right, like we did here, and not just put in a stopgap measure, but let's do it right.
In response to that, I remember when we spoke before about the dog park, you had said there's a number of people who even drive all the way out from London to go to the Strathroy Dog Park. So I don't know if I'd say maybe your estimate of 30 to 40 may be low, but we don't know because we don't have it.
Yeah, correct, right. It would be interesting to know exactly who is using the dog park, but we have people who come from London, we've had people who come from St. Thomas. We actually had a couple buy a car from St. Thomas here in town because they come to the dog park. So it's kind of it is a well-kept dog park. Now, and Adrian, the dog park here in town is lit in Strathroy. It's open till 11 o'clock at night. A lot of dog parks aren't illuminated. So that will also help increase the traffic that we're seeing because we're open for better from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day.
Councillor Pammer.
So you kind of answered my question with basketball court, FGRC. I was going to ask you, what is that? And you said fairgrounds, so we should take that one off.
Yep,
right?
thank you.
Councillor Pelkman.
Yeah, one item that I didn't think about before, but has been talked about in the past, would be a band shell of some form, whether it's just a smallish one that when you have a tournament that you can do award ceremonies, or whether it's something that you can actually structure concerts or something else. I know that's a big ticket item, but I mean, if you don't put it down there, you never know who might check.
I'm going to comment on that, and I think the director can correct me if I'm wrong. I think there was a movement towards a band shell in Alexander Park quite a few years ago.
Yes.
And it got shut down by St. Clair because of the floodplain. So it has been thought of by 2 organizations that I know of, but I think that's the history on it, right, Rob?
Yeah,
I have the design in my bedroom.
Yeah. We have we're cursed and we're blessed. We have a beautiful, beautiful park in downtown Strathroy. Beautiful park. Except it floods 3 or 4 times a year. So that makes it difficult to, I don't want to say program, but difficult to consider building an asset in there. And Darren, you were around when the original shop burnt down in Alexander Park. And to rebuild the structure that they currently have now, they had to eliminate other structures so they could build this structure so they didn't decrease the amount of floodplain. So if they wanted to add 4,000 square feet of building, they needed to remove 4,000 square feet of building. So that was part of the problem that we had with the potential for a pavilion in the last time it was brought up.
Doesn't have to be in Alexander Park, though.
No, it does not need to be in Alexander Park. That's what I'm saying, is we're blessed yet we're cursed. It could be built up at the fairgrounds. It could be built in Mount Bridges somewhere. It could be anywhere.
There's on the books 2 sizable parks, one for off of Salisbury, and also, you know, we'll have eventually a very large community park on the south of 2nd Street, so,
Yes.
you know, maybe those are possible options as well.
Yes. And those are options when we go to design them. We ask the designers to provide us with a couple different options. Show one with a band shell, right? Show one without. And, you know, we can design the park and just kind of have in our mind that there will be a band shell over here, and that's where we start to build. We're not, and I'll use Fairgrounds Recreation Complex as an example. We have now, there's still stuff we want to do at the Fairgrounds Recreation Complex, but it's all mapped out. So we know that we need a new washroom facility and pavilion up at the Fairgrounds Recreation Complex, because the current ball building and washrooms there, they're not usable. So we've already designed it, we've got a mapped site plan, we've got a floor plan laid out already, so we know the footprint of where that building's gonna go. So if we're gonna add another asset or activity up there, we know not to build in this location, because this is where the pavilion and washroom facilities are supposed to go. So we're starting to do more what we refer to as site master planning, and then we'll be identifying where assets will be going in different parcels.
I have a question about Sleepy Hollow. It's in the last section at the bottom,
Yep.
greater than $50,000. I know that the Strathroy Railroaders Association, I hope that's the correct,
Strathroy Model Railroad.
Model Railroad Association, is raising or fundraising to expand that track. So that would that take away from the amount under the PTP list, if that, depending on how they do fundraising, or how does that work? Because they have been fundraising for a couple of years now to try and get that track around the entire park.
I don't understand your question, I'm sorry.
I'm not understanding it either. That's what I'm trying to figure out. So if it's listed over $50,000 here through PTP, but the group, the volunteer group is raising money and all that, does that money that they raise take away from this price tag here?
We would match what they bring in,
Okay.
up to a certain amount.
Okay, thank you. That's what, Brad.
Yeah, just on that same subject, there is a service club in town, as maybe next week will be able to give us an answer. But they're looking at expanding the tracks to have that part of their programs. They want to do some work in West Middlesex Park, as long as they can figure out what section. But the expansion of the tracks was the big one they're looking at. So
Would that be-
there may be, that would be the optimism.
Would that be your service club?
Yes.
Would that be on April the 8th? That might be said?
No, I wouldn't go that far, but pretty close.
Sidebar Optimist hosts
Sidebar.
an Easter egg hunt April the 8th.
But they're taking a hard look at it anyway.
Okay. Any other questions, comments to the PTP list?
So what I'll do is I'll revise this list, I'll take off the scoring, I'll send out a survey, ask you guys to rank your 1, 2, 3s and so on, and then hopefully I'll be able to bring back a revised list. It is a little busy at the moment, so I'll try to have it to the meeting in April. If not, it'll be the meeting in May. Paul, I saw you were.
Yeah, I just thought it might be good to remind the committee what the budget is for PTP. So when you take a look at the list of projects there, there's only so many dollars that we have in the budget to contribute to that. So that's certainly a factor in the projects that program can do. And if you notice the last list, whatever you rank at the bottom as your least important will probably get done.
Okay, so we have a recommendation to accept to receive the report from the Progress and Partnership Committee, including 6.1.1, which is a list of projects. We need a mover and a seconder for that. Councillor Pelkman and Brad Richards, seconder. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Did that include the additions that we mentioned tonight?
Pardon me, sorry?
Yes.
That's, yeah. To number 7, new business. 7.1, recreation updates. Am I going to the director here, or am I going to our community liaison?
You will go to Mr. Lattimore.
Mr. Lattimore, Paul, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I know a lot of times I get into numbers and stuff, and I'm going to a tiny bit, but I would like to spark maybe a little bit of discussion tonight as well. We're heavy into our recruitment phase right now for the summer, so aquatics. Put a shout out to Amanda Getliff, has been our aquatic supervisor for 5 years, I think, and if she'd have come back this year, it would have been her 10th year at the pool, but she isn't, so thanks to her for her service, and she's been a great help to me. So we're working on replacements for her and then for the rest of the team. So I don't know how familiar people are with aquatics across at least this county. It's a bit of a tough recruitment. So we're working on it. I think we've got enough lifeguards for this year to continue to operate the way that we are. But if you have family, friends, whatever, that have kids in swimming lessons, keep them in swimming lessons and promote them to do the Bronze Cross and Life Saving Society, and we'll give them a job. On that camp, we are recruiting as well. Our numbers continue to soar. We are almost registration-wise this year at this point where we were at the end of last year. We've almost got to that point. So our growth continues to be substantial. We have 1,148 registrations. We got to 1,267 last year. 2017, if you remember, we started with 352. So you can see where that growth is. Even better idea, and the reason I like to talk about the recruitment is we're able to give kids in this community, and I say kids because of my age, an opportunity for a lot of them, their first jobs, and for some to stick around for jobs for a while. We started the camp program with 12 staff, and we're probably going to hire 30 this year. So you can see the opportunities that we're giving. So as much as budget time, we sometimes look and say, oh my goodness, you're asking for that much for staff wages. Our revenue has gone up with that as well. But just so you know, in the things that we've developed, we're providing that many employment opportunities for youth and in our community. So really cool there. Programs, we had a few that we started. So laser tag, we got up to 13, yoga 15, and floor curling 17. Those don't sound like huge numbers, but if you're familiar with recreation programming, it is really tough to start new programs and get them going and build that momentum. Those are really good numbers for first-time programs, and it continues to add to the menu that we've been offering to the community. I'll give you another perspective. In 2015, which is just before the municipality decided that they needed somebody to focus on recreation, which was me, we had 268 registrations for 2015. In 2022, we had 1,712. So again, you can see where that growth is, and I think Rob had the number that 2015, maybe it was 2016, was 11,000 in revenue, and we're looking that we may surpass 400,000 this year. So again, a good growth, and we're in a department that requires us to generate revenue on a regular basis. So something that we continue to do, and a lot of that has stemmed from this group in discussions. And that leads me into asking what you're hearing out in the community about our programs and what you're hearing that people want.
Adrian.
I can say from my own perspective, what drew me to putting 2 of my children in the camps programs this year is because they're themed. So I wouldn't necessarily, I registered my 10 and 11-year-old for a soccer camp. I wouldn't necessarily put them in a camp because they're old enough to be home with their sister, but because it's something that is of interest to them, we're signing up for the camps. You know, whereas other municipalities, it's just a day camp. You drop your kid off and you pick them up at the end of the day. So I think that's kudos to you guys for doing that. And also the junior chefs program. I have 2 kids in that, and they are so excited every week to go to that program. I have a kid that refuses to eat anything but rice at home, and he's going there making butter chicken and loving it. So that, from my perspective, they're wonderful.
I know that I had talked to actually a couple of sets of grandparents last September who said that their children lived out of town, but their grandkids came to Strathroy for the summer for a couple of weeks and participated in the camps and allowed the grandchildren to stay with their grandparents while participating in the camps. So it's bringing people from outside the community too and enrolling into the programs that are hosted here. Heard that from a couple of families last summer. Councillor Wilsey?
Just a couple different ideas. On the robotics camp that we're having, my daughter's in that. She's the only girl. She really loves it. She wishes there was maybe a female helper or something in that. She feels kind of secluded, so that's...
And that was in robotics?
Yeah, on the Monday night one. That's just a comment for that. She loves the course. I'm not anything about that, just she feels odd being the only girl. There's a group that just closed. I don't know if we have the facilities to do it in Strathroy or not, but it's for canoeing and paddle camp. There was one in Grand Bend that actually had a lift, and it was AODA compliant, and people in wheelchairs could take their kids. And the kids who were in wheelchairs could actually go in the canoes and the kayaks in the river and do that. They actually are not running. They lost their dock. So if that's something that the municipality is interested in, I know people from there were coming all the way from Hamilton to that camp. So if that's something that we want to do, I don't know if we have the facilities in the river to do that. It's an idea.
We do do some canoeing especially in our adventure camp, which is one of the themes that we have in the 1 week, and we always take the kids canoeing, and that's a partnership that we work with the Scouts on. So something that we can look at, and this is why I asked, because I'm not going to promise anything that's said at this meeting.
And my thought on that too, if we're promoting that we're AODA compliant, some of those, there is a lot that has to go into that behind that, so I don't know if we're able to do that.
Yeah.
But that's something that we could potentially look at either with that or with our other camps.
We don't know unless we look and unless we try. So no, that's awesome. That's the stuff that I'm looking for.
That's one of the items that this department 10 years ago we were just a facility rental department. We would rent out the community center, we'd rent out the gym, people would do their own programming. We do ice rentals for hockey and figure skating and baseball. And then we conducted, I want to say it was the first Parks and Recreation Master Plan, where it talked about how do we need to increase the utilization of our facilities. And that's how Paul's position came about, was to utilize those facilities. And out of that Parks and Recreation Master Plan, we developed a vision and we developed a mission. And we've continued to grow that mission and vision to where we are today. And if anyone knows Paul, pretty much anyone in our department, we don't believe in boxes. If we think inside a box, we're not doing our job. We like to be outside the box, looking at the box, going, how do we change that box? I don't know of any other municipalities running a junior trades program where you get 9-year-olds running drill presses and table saws and jigsaws and so on. So yes, are they a little bit more risky? Absolutely they are. Are we afraid of the risk? No. If there's a way that we can do something and we can do it well, we'll take a stab at it. And that's Paul and his staff are challenged with that each and every day. And I have to give Paul credit with regards to his team that he formulates every year to pull together our summer camps program and then the rest of his recreation program as well.
Councillor Pelkman.
Would there be any possible?
Oh, sorry, Councillor Wilsey.
Just one more on my list, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I forgot how long your list was, sorry.
I only had 3. Okay. One took a long time. The other one was, I've already sent an email in from a resident who asked, it was for indoor pickleball to be in Mount Bridges as well as Strathroy, because it was well received here.
So I'm glad you brought that up tonight, because we have just been pulling together the budget for that. We're going to need about $4,000 to pull that off. from between painting the lines, getting additional equipment and so on. So that'll be something that we'll have to come to council for to execute, because we don't have those funds currently in our operating budget. So we'll be looking to council for some direction in the near future.
Are there any more funds beyond just that 4,000 for staff and upkeep and?
The way we're
or-
currently looking at it is more from a volunteer-based program. There's a couple ways we're looking at it. Paul lives in Mount Bridges, so if we can get a place set up for Paul to actually start his day in Mount Bridges, he can be there a couple times a week. But we need to make sure we got all the IT in place for that to occur. Or we have a contractor who can open the facility up and let the people in to set up their own nets and so on. So there's different ways that we're looking at operating it. But from a physical asset perspective, we need between $3,000 to $4,000 to get that up and going.
And that'll be in your budget, or is that a separate?
That's gonna have to, because budgets have already been submitted, it may be, there's a couple ways we can do that. Staff can ask to increase the budget, or a councillor can put something forward.
And that's why we're going to Councillor Pelkman.
The other piece
Paul.
that could be a PTP component as well. If there's somebody in the community that feels strongly enough about pickleball in Mount Bridges and wants to, lack of a better term, pony up, we've got money to match it. So that's another option as well.
Go ahead.
And just because you add the robotics, I forgot to mention as well, we are working through so we do it at the high school. It's part of our joint use agreement. It's also one of the teachers in the tech department that does the robotics team that runs our program and has integrated his robotics team from the school into a leadership program with our robotics program. And he is actively trying to recruit female participation to and expand the diversity of that team. So hopefully he's successful and our program will benefit. It's a big part of why we've chosen the 9 to 13 age range, is so that we can sink our teeth into these kids just before they get to high school with the trades, and then they hit those technical departments, because they have been suffering in recent years getting enough kids to take their classes, to run enough classes. They are, from what I hear, starting to see a little bump with that, and I hope that our programs are even a little bit to do with that, and hopefully we can continue to. So the robotics is one that I think, as we continue to build towards this, and with the Skills Catalyst fund, there's some money set aside there too to bolster the trades, the junior trades program, on top of the millions of dollars that are set to go into the high school for apprenticeship programs. We'll keep pushing this because it's important, and we'll keep recruiting and getting kids active and doing stuff that is a little bit outside of the norm. And we've got the insurance, right, Steve? So we're good.
Councillor Pelkman. Sorry, Councillor Wilson, are you done your list? Councillor Pelkman.
Two points. Just wondering if there's any opportunity to partner with Lower Thames out at Scanada, because they've got a tremendous piece of property there. And I know they run stuff, but our marketing seems to be better than theirs. So just wondering if that's a possibility, that you get a win without a whole lot of effort.
We have talked to them before and kind of ball in their court to see if there's things that we can do.
Fair enough.
Probably worth a revisit.
And the other is that, the municipality owns the building next door to Dennings, and that original concept for that building seems to have been stalled. Wondering if there's opportunity there for anything. I know the carvers that used to be down at the senior center are looking for space because they lost theirs. So I know there has to be someone in the building, right? A staff member in the building for something to run?
Not necessarily. The challenge with that building is there is some contamination in the building, as well as some structural concerns with all the renovations it's had. And it's currently used as a storage location for the municipality. So if we were to look at repurposing that building, it's doable. It will just require, I think the last time we did it was about $1 million to upgrade it to the point where it's usable.
The one carver that was speaking to me, I believe, also works with the trades program. So, yeah, he lives in Parkview.
I'm not sure where he lives, but.
You're saying Carver?
Yeah. Yeah, so they need a space with a concrete floor and a vacuum cleaner, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Councillor Kramer.
I just want to, first of all, commend the rec department for adding some adult evening programs, and I just want to keep that on the agenda when we're looking at programming for adults, because not all adults are retired, and a lot of older adults still want to be active even though they're still working. So I know a few years ago there was literally nothing in the evenings for adults, but you included pickleball, and I think in Mount Bridges, if you look at pickleball, you also want to look at an evening pickleball program, not just a daytime one, because it does attract people, of all ages. So that's what I hear is there's been some great additions with, I know, mixed volleyball and things like that, and the pickleball, but we want to make sure we still have lots of things for adults to do in the evening too.
We recently were working with a group that came forward asking for a men's basketball league. We've kind of run out on time with getting that one set for the time frame they're looking, but it's something that we're going to work towards in the fall. We're working on a women's soccer league because there was one that's no longer going to be operating, so you'll see that on Facebook and on our website. We've got 3 of the 4 teams that we need to operate. So I'm a strong proponent of adult participation, because I think if adults participate, children participate, and we also have a much larger senior demographic in this community than we ever have, and we want to keep them active and healthy and going too. So that's the bolstering of the senior programs during the day, but also things at night. And as we've talked about before, we're starting to run out of facility space, and time and space is what is becoming a bit of a hiccup, but those solutions are discussions at a different table.
Paul and I met today because there's another group that would like to start an additional volleyball, a women's only volleyball group, and we just don't have the capacity to pull off the ability to do that. We don't have the gym space. And one of the recommendations of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan is to not alone just build an arena in Mount Bridges, but to look at adding a double gymnasium up at the Gemini. And council has given staff permission to advance some designs for that double gym. But not at the detriment of the construction of the new facility in Mount Bridges. So we are advancing both projects slowly, or I shouldn't say slowly. The gymnasiums is going slowly, where the arena is on more of a fast track with regards to getting to conceptual design. But for us to advance additional recreation programming in the evening, we're going to need to start looking at, how do we do that? And it may be accessing the high school on the weekends, which then costs us more money, and because we need to pay for custodians at that point. And that's if the adults would want to play on a Saturday or Sunday, right? Typically that's family time, so they're not really too keen on weekend activities or weekend league play. So it's a challenge that we got to face. We do have access to elementary schools, but the elementary gyms are not full-size gyms. So you're not going to put an adult volleyball group in OLI's gym, as an example. But you might be able to put a badminton program in a gym like that. So we've got some logistics we need to work out, but we're continuing to try to grow those programs. But facility space is becoming a challenge. We started in 2016. I would say we've maximized our facility usage to the original intent of Paul's hiring. So now we just need more buildings.
Brad?
And question for Paul, how is our seniors programs doing, Paul? We were going to be selling memberships or something, or something?
We do have memberships. It's still probably a process that we're fine tuning. But we have a strong contingency of seniors in our pickleball, in our cards. The floor curling that I mentioned is one that's primarily a seniors program during the day right now. The yoga is primarily seniors as well. So we continue to build upon those programs. Always a strong believer in do it slow and methodically so that we do it right and we don't try to saturate and throw 10 programs out and hope that they all stick and you end up with maybe one. I'd rather do 2 or 3 and get them going properly. So that's the way that we've been building. So that's a part of these numbers that you're seeing going from 268 to 1712 is a bunch of those. That daytime programming is a big part of it.
Any other recreation updates, Paul?
No, the only thing I'll put is if you're hearing things out in the community, make sure that you send them our way, because if we don't hear them, we don't know them, and if we don't know, then it's not something that we can explore, and we're always open-minded. Again, it's a no promise thing. Facilities may be the problem, but we can be creative.
Thank you, Paul. 7.2, illumination of municipal office.
So in your package, you would have received another policy. This one is simply similar to the flag policy, where we do have groups who do come forward who request to change the color of the lights on Town Hall to celebrate a special day or a special week or whatever it may be, to prevent, or I shouldn't say prevent, but to provide some guidelines for staff with regards to who's eligible for those requests, what would be considered ineligible, frequency and timing, and so on. We've presented this for you guys to review. If you're happy with it tonight, I would be glad to take a motion to move it forward to council. If you've got questions, I'm glad to answer them. And if you want to take a month, we can take a month and bring it back.
Councillor Pell?
I'm just curious why you chose purple as the standard color other than the municipal blue.
Huh?
Didn't I read in there somewhere that if there's nothing going on, that it was going to be purple? I thought I read that. Was that? No.
Most of our department's colorblind. I don't know.
So we have, so under exemptions, it talks about the rest of November. So November 10th and 11th would be red for Remembrance Day. Rest of November would be purple for Shine the Light on Women's Abuse.
That's probably what I read.
Okay.
So if there's no request, what color will it be?
If there's no request, the lights would typically probably be off. But we could make them municipal blue, or we haven't identified that in here in the policy. So,
And for something like Pride, do you have the ability to do rainbow?
yes.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments, motions? Oh, sorry, Councillor Pell.
A motion to approve the illumination policy?
Motion would be to recommend to council for
Oh,
approval.
okay, yep. Motion would be to recommend to council to approve the illumination of the municipal offices policy.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Wilsey, any questions or comments to the motion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. 7.3, a discussion around customer surveys.
So I mentioned earlier, we're trying to gather data with regards to usage of our facilities, whether it's parks, arenas, or ball diamonds, and so on. But we also want to know how we're doing. I don't remember the last time twice we may have sent out a survey to our user groups asking how we're doing. We're not asking the general public how we're doing. Darren Dowding, our supervisor of parks and facilities, was recently at a facility, and they had a large QR code on the wall. And the title simply said, "How are we doing? Please take a survey." Scan it, and just a lot of questions about, how did you find your visit today? 1 to 10. In ours, I would put, did you use the ice? Was the ice in good condition? Were the washrooms clean? Were you able to find staff? Just different questions like, we need customer feedback. If we don't know what we're doing wrong, how do we fix it? And again, hopefully we'll get some 10 out of 10s, right? We're doing well. But what I really want is where we can improve. I've said this since I got here. I would put my operations, the municipality's operations staff up against any other operational staff in the province of Ontario with regards to how we keep our facilities in a cleanliness position as well as a maintenance position. Our staff are very well trained and do a very good job. And a lot of that is part and parcel because of Darren's commitment to continuous training and looking at how we can improve things. So I bring this up because I kind of want your guys' opinions. Like, what do you think? Should we be doing that? Shouldn't we be doing that? How do we do that?
Councillor Pelkman.
Well, I actually think that's a great idea. The Q code option's cheap. It doesn't really cost a lot of money. The only thing that I would do would be to couple that with people counters, so that because typically people are going to use it when they complain, and so you'd want to know, is 10 complaints out of 10,000 people versus 10 complaints out of 100 would be a big difference in whether or not you have a problem or not.
If I'm going to ask the supervisor of parks and facilities, talk about the people counters that we've been looking at. It's quite a unique technology. So, Darren?
So we've looked into these people counters, and there's a camera-based system that would set up just inside of a set of double doors, say, like at the Gemini. So it would actually track people coming in and out, not as a surveillance side, but as a counter. There's also counters like you would see over at the museum, the library. So it's just a pass-through counter. Those are difficult because they track both ways, and you may have the same person come in, drop their kid off, leave, go park the car, go to Tim Hortons, and they come back. So you might be counting the same person per visit.
It was exhausting in the early days because I kept going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth to get our numbers out.
You were at the dog
You were
park.
walking in a circle, weren't you?
He was at the dog park going over the counter. No, that is a hard number to capture, specifically when we have locations where we have multiple entrances. So you may come in one entry and go out a separate exit. So you're not being counted leaving. So we have to look at it, how all those pieces work in, but very good point to be able to see what your ratio of complaints may or may not be.
The nice thing about the video system is it gives us a dashboard. We can go online any point in time during the day and see how many people are in our building. We originally started investigating people counters during COVID when they were telling us we could only have 25% of the occupancy of the building allowed inside the space. So we started investigating these different types of people counters. And so it is something that we are looking at. And I agree that, if you've got 10,000 people in the building, you may get a lot more negative complaints because it may be a little bit dirtier with 10,000 people versus 10 people in the building, right? So you're going to want to know, what are you measuring at that point in time?
Councillor Wilson.
A couple things to add to that. I've seen few different QR codes in arenas where there's actually things you can actually use your camera to scan a QR code and actually watch the game, or if we tie into something like that, make it where that QR code would maybe go to our website and then link to the other rinks or ices or a video feed or something, that might get more people to actually use the survey. And when we're doing the survey, my thought, I know my biggest pet peeve with surveys is I get 2 or 3 pages in and they say you're 10% of the way through. Do you want to do, I always quit, never do this. I would want to think maybe a couple pages in or get the most important questions on the first page. And then the last question, do you want to continue on a more detailed? And I think we're going to get a lot more responses on that first bit. But then the key part of that is if we can get more people to use it and make it a value add where, hey, here's a video feed of the ice rink. So you can go into the beer garden and have your beer in the beer garden and halfway through the third period and still watch the game on your phone. And maybe do the survey at the same time.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions, comments?
I just want to share, where is Zoom? Because I need to share my screen again. One of the things that we are trying to, we're trying to improve access to staff. So these arenas are large. And we always get accused staff are hiding. Well, chances are staff aren't hiding. They're probably in a change room, on their hands and knees cleaning a toilet, versus hiding. So we did purchase call boxes a number of years ago. That's the yellow thing there. You push the button, you hold it, and it calls a two-way radio that the operator's supposed to be wearing. One of the comments we got from the people was, well, that looks like like an emergency box, like a 911, so people weren't using it. So and it also didn't stand out as much as we thought it would. Again, staff came up with this suggestion about maybe it's just not a call box, but maybe we identify the cell number that the operators also have when they're working. So every West Middlesex has a help phone, Gemini has a help phone. So they have individual numbers. So we've now gone to the point where we've put some signage up around these call boxes to help make it a little bit more prominent, but also provide other options to reach the staff in the building. Again, it's trying to increase that level of customer service at a little minimal expense, right?
Is that number text compatible? Can they text
Yes,
as well?
absolutely.
Yeah. Just be aware that these phones don't always work 100% of the time in the facilities either. So if there's members of the public that are trying to get a hold of our staff and they're not answering, they may be in a refrigeration plant, they may be on the ice. So there's going to be times where they're not available, and we've noted that on the sign too.
Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to show that, just another way of us trying to improve our customer service within our facilities.
Any other questions or comments regarding community surveys? Okay, let's move on to 7.4, Community Events Program.
So, I'm gonna take a drink.
We'll be right back.
The document in front of you now is just a revision of the Community Partnership Program. So the Community Partnership Program is a program where not-for-profit organizations can apply once a year at budget time can get seed money to start an event or ask for funds to help execute an event. So I can give an example of Hometown Festival. It's about a $150,000 budget they have. They ask for $15,000 from the municipality to help execute that event. Strathroy Lions Club help execute the Santa Claus Parade. They asked for $3,500. Pride asked for funds to help execute their event. Melbourne Ag Society requested funds and so on. So there's a variety of different not-for-profit organizations requesting some funds. Now, all of those events, save and except for one, all those requests were event-based. So when we redesigned the program, because we shouldn't be providing, staff's opinion is, we shouldn't be providing monies to offset operational losses. We should be providing funds to bolster the image of that organization, but also the municipality in assisting that organization. And because all but one were event related, and that one organization that did submit that wasn't event based can easily adjust their application to be event based. We've reworked the program to be focused around events. The previous program did not require any reporting back to the municipality on how they use the funds, how they recognize the municipality. They didn't have to report back the impact that the funds had on the community. That has all now been added to this new program. We added in a limit on the amount of funds that can go towards an organization based on their overall operating budget. So if they have $100,000, they can ask for up to 25% of that $100,000. So they could ask for $25,000. But if you've got an event that's only $10,000, they would only be eligible for $2,500. Okay. I think that's pretty much it in a nutshell. It was provided to you prior to the meeting. We don't need to sit here and approve this tonight, but if there is some conversation and some discussion, or we can take it back and you can look at it for a month. If you got questions, email me or give me a shout, and I can try to answer them over the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Councillor Palmer.
The challenge I'm having with the whole program is to get my mind around if an event run by a charity, the goal is to raise funds for the charity. So we have, I don't know, let's just make something up, I don't know. But anyway, the Lions Club does the Santa Claus Parade, and there's a profit at the end of that, which profit, funds for the organization. The two questions that come to mind is, one, why does the town need to contribute funds to that if the activities it does covers its expenses? And two, if we do, isn't that just a charitable donation? So this is where I'm kind of struggling with this policy, because with really not just the whole program, is what is it we're doing? Are we just giving money to, are we giving money to local charities to support what they're doing, saying we endorse it, we want to partner, it's okay if you make a ton of money on it? I guess, do you know where I'm going?
I do. A couple of examples, the events don't make a profit, so I'll use Santa Claus Parade as an example. It's a break-even event. It's not a revenue generator for the Strathroy Lions Clubs based on the budget that they present to us. Hometown Festival, they're not a fundraising body. They raise funds to be able to execute next year's event.
Okay.
And I'll use Hometown Festival as an example. If the municipality was to run the Hometown Festival, it would cost the municipality a lot more than $15,000. You could probably add a couple zeros to that $15,000 to $150,000. Because municipalities, and we'll talk about the sponsorship package that you have in here, businesses and organizations don't necessarily like to give to municipalities because we're already collecting their tax dollars. So it's hard for us to get sponsorship. So if the Hometown Festival was to walk away and say we're not doing it anymore, and council asked staff to pick up that event, we'd be looking at council saying, okay, but we need $150,000 to $200,000 to execute. We run a rib fest because there's no special event that happens in July, and one of the goals is to try to keep the residents in the community and spend time in their community, but also bring outsiders into our community for tourism dollars. We have a budget of $15,000 for all of our special events. So Kate works very hard at trying to get some sponsorship from the community, and that's what we'll be talking about next. There may come a time when staff will have to come to council and say, we just can't run special events on $15,000. And council will have to make a decision on whether or not operating special events is something we want to do or something we don't want to do. But that's, you know, I would argue from a recreation perspective that, you know, not running special events is a detriment to your community, because now you're forcing people to leave your community for their entertainment. And part of our, and Councillor Palmer, you mentioned it this evening, that adults like to recreate at nighttime, and it's nice that we have opportunities for them, because if we didn't have opportunities for them, they'd leave the community, right? So this program itself, although yes, some organizations would be considered fundraisers. I'll use Community Over Cancer as an example. They are purely a fundraiser, but that money doesn't go to them to into their pockets of their executive. All of that money gets spent on residents in our community who are fighting cancer. And that worthwhile cause, they originally used to give the money that we raised used to go to Princess Margaret. So an organization totally outside of our community. And then they saw the need, and I don't want to be putting words in Community Over Cancer's mouth, but they saw a need within the community to fund those residents in our community. And it's been a very successful, and you can see that by the number of people who attend it and how quickly it sells out. So the benefit from the municipality is the recognition that we get from supporting those events. Our branding policy requires we give funds to Hometown Festival. They are required to identify hometown for Strathroy-Caradoc as supporters of Hometown Festival, and that's on all of their literature. One of the reasons we've changed the program is we've never had a reporting structure back. The province of Ontario or the federal government, when they give funds to the municipality through grants, we're required to write a report back on how we spent the money, where we spent the money, you know, who benefited from the money. We've never asked for that. So we're changing that with this program. And that will help formulate the basis of moving forward with, you know, the volume of money we give out to an individual organization, or should we look at, you know, another alternative? Maybe Lions Club should get more money than this other group based on impact, right? But the other thing that's going to change is it's not going to be staff pulling together a report and throwing it in front of council. We would like the applications come here to CDAC to get vetted and scored before they go to council. We're able to have greater open dialogue in this format than council does at the council table, because their agendas are so long and so on. So having the ability to score the applications here and then send the recommendations on to council for further discussion and debate, I think is a positive step with regards to the program. Anyway, I'll stop talking.
Before I go to Councillor Kaufman, do we have any unread messages from Al that's on Zoom? I forgot to check in on him.
No.
We're good? Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Kaufman and then Councillor Palmer.
So, I know in this year's requests, there was one event that was pretty much a closed event. It wasn't really open to the public, and we gave that event a fairly substantial amount of dollars. And the only mention I see of whether it's a public or private event on the application is page 7. And it says, is this a public or private event? And if private, why? I'm just wondering if should we even be giving money to a private event? And that should be something that's mandatory, to be open to the public.
Okay, we can easily put that in one eligibility, is event must be open to the general public.
Well, I'm putting that out for discussion for the group, because in this particular instance, when you say you have more freedom here than in the council chambers, that would have been a really awkward event to say no to.
Yes, agreed.
Really awkward. And yet it was a substantial amount of dollars, but there's gonna be very little people in the community benefit from it. So just wondering if anybody has a comment about that.
Sherry?
Like when you say benefit from it or just contribute to it?
Even be able to attend it.
Participate.
Yeah.
What event was it?
I would not answer that.
Yeah, no, we're still in a
Because
public.
That doesn't do us any
No,
good.
it's
There's
a
you
live,
can-
this is live stream, I don't wanna, right, there's. Now, the argument could be made that it was a public event, however, it's during the day. Most people are working, the students are going to be invited, they'll take up the majority of the seat, like, so they did indicate that it was open to the public, but it would be limited amount of public that could attend. So it wasn't a fully private event, but
Well,
that's the point, right?
At that event, I was still fairly supportive of it, for various reasons, but let's say somebody submitted an event that, was only available to, let's say the Shriners, and, there's, 50 Shriners in town and nobody else can attend, is that something that we would be inclined to donate money to? Maybe we do, maybe we don't, depending on how many people are coming into town to attend it. I think it's something that needs to be discussed in terms of this program, so that we're not faced with a really awkward decision at council.
There's nothing in this document that speaks to that scenario. But I agree that that's a challenge with regards to, it's a private event, and should we be funding private events? Right. If it is a national jamboree only for scouts, would you fund it? National jamboree or an international jamboree only for scouts. You've got people coming from Denmark and Sweden, same place, all over the world. Would you not fund it?
That's a good question.
Right, so I think a lot of it may come down to a case-by-case basis with regards to what is the impact to the community. And that's one of the reasons why we're asking for a follow-up report, because most of these requests are repeat requests. Very rarely do we get one-offs. Doesn't mean we don't, we got one this year. But it would have been nice to get a little bit more, and maybe we need to put that in the application, is what's the perceived impact to the community today? And then as a follow-up, what was the impact to the community, to see if they line up, right? So yeah, we're gonna have 5,000 people from the community attend, and we're gonna splash your brand all over social media, and then their follow-up report says, yeah, we only had 500 people show up, we weren't able to do the marketing the way we had planned, so we may have second thoughts on supporting that group for the next application, right? So this is just obviously draft number 1.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Palmer.
I'll just, first of all, say that I agree with Steve that I think we need to look at something, the event being open to the public, or what's the impact on the community for sure. So a couple of things. One of the questions I would like to ask when someone's applying is, we could ask them, would the event happen without the municipality's contribution? Like, right? That's a question you often see on these applications, and I think it's a good one. You know, Hometown Festival might say, well, we couldn't do it. We just couldn't find the resources, or the parade wouldn't run, right? I think when I'm evaluating a project, that kind of information is really valuable to me. Also then in the follow-up, I would like to see a final income expense sheet, and that's not requested. And if there is a surplus in income, tell me what you do with that money.
Do you want that in the 90-day report after?
Yeah, afterwards. So I could see, oh, okay, Santa Claus Parade, you got X amount in sponsorship, it cost this much to run, we made $500 and we're gonna buy a bigger float for next year. I don't know, whatever. Or, you know, it was a zero, it was a wash. But that would help inform us for next year decisions too, and help us understand what's being done with the money.
Yep, those are all good.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Paul, did you want to?
No, that's okay. I was just gonna say, if you, on there for the future, you do have to show last year's budget with your application as well. I wasn't sure if you had that.
Yeah, the budget. But I think as a follow-up, it'd be good to see how the money was used in the current year and what the income was, if there was any, or loss.
Councillor Wilson.
I'd like to see a section on there where we separated out Strathroy-Caradoc facilities, where they asked for if they could use a facility and keep that separate from their budget, so we could decide to let them use, say, the hall or a gym, but have just limit it to just what that cost is, rather than asking for money in addition to that, so that, like, two separate sections on the form. Like when they're filling out and asking for money, I would like the rental fee for the West Middle Met for Saturday, whatever, plus $2,500. Maybe we can do one or the other, and they don't become.
So typically that's what we've done. So Hometown Festival is an example. Out of their grant, they have to pay the pavilion fees. Any of the facilities that they're using, if there's a rental charge, they have to pay for that. That comes out of the 15 grand. If the community over cancer, same thing, right? So they only ask for the cost of the facility rental. They don't. So you don't get to ask for two things. It's one or the other. It's facility rental or a fee. So if they're not renting a facility like Community Over Cancer, say they were running their event at the Portuguese Club, instead of asking for a facility waiver, which they get at West or at the Gemini, they may ask for $3,000 to pay for the rental of the Portuguese Canadian Club, and then we would just cut them a check for $3,000. Where with the facility rental, it's just a transfer of funds in our ledger. We don't cut a check to Community Over Cancer. Was I clear on that?
Yeah, I guess that's just more clear to me. I didn't know if we did maybe the facility rental. Looking at, there was one event that we approved this year where they had a facility rental where we granted it last year, and then they asked for a large increase over last year's budget this year.
So that particular event will be charged for the pavilions. That will come out of that $5,000. So they're not getting the free pavilion rental and the $5,000. They get one or the other.
Any other questions, comments? Just a sidebar question for the director. Is this meeting capped at 2 hours?
We're almost done.
Okay. I was just wondering because we still have to go over sponsorship.
Yeah,
And we have 6 minutes if we are capped.
And if we are capped for 2 hours, but the committee can agree to go longer.
Okay, any other questions or comments regarding community events program? Okay, 7.5, key event sponsorship opportunities program.
So this is just really sharing for awareness. As I stated earlier, our special events division has $15,000 to pull off all of the events that they do throughout the year, whether that's Winterfest, Ribfest, the street or the night market, jamborees, Halloween events, and so on. So they've come up with this sponsorship package, and if you know someone who is looking to wanting to partner with the municipality on different activities or events, please, have them get in contact with us at the office here at Town Hall. Paul, I don't know if you got anything you want to add to this, or?
We've brought it to this table hoping that we can source out and get some help. We were hoping that the budget was going to be approved for a big number in our events section. But we're not there yet, so we're hoping that this committee and more can push this out and help us. Rob alluded to it earlier that people aren't often super generous with giving the municipality money for events or anything because they feel like they already have. So that makes this a little bit more difficult, and we do have a huge task ahead of us. I think we're on track to run some really good events, and we're trying to grow those, but they don't grow without support, and support in this case usually means money. So at this table, if everybody did $10,000, that would be great.
Paul, is there a list of events that you could share with us that in case we do have inquiries?
If you go to the last page.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Oh no, maybe it's not on there. Those are past sponsors. You can go through this though, and it gives you it gives you Winterfest, it gives you Ribfest. We have added the community sponsor, which is something that we haven't had in the past, which is kind of a blanket sponsorship that will get you in on every event and gives you an opportunity to have extensive exposure throughout the year rather than a larger impact at one event. But you'll see the seniors jamborees. We're hoping to bring back the movies in the park, Halloween. We've got two markets downtown. We'll open up May 20th, I believe, is our date for the first one, and then the August one as well. So there's lots of opportunity.
Sherry?
Paul, when you say that there's like one available, so next to Wonderland sponsor, one available at an investment of $3,000, that you're only offering that up to one person to sponsor that? There's no opportunity for dual sponsorship?
Yeah, well, everything's flexible, Sherry. If we get two people that want to give us money, we're not going to say no. This is where we get creative.
Any other questions regarding the sponsorship opportunities program? Okay, inquiries or comments by members. We'll go around the shoe. Sherry?
I think I'm good for now, thanks. No.
Councillor Wilson?
I've said enough today.
Jagger?
None from me.
Steve? Adrian? Darren?
The only thing I wanted to mention is, as Paul stated before, if this committee's out in the public and you are hearing things, don't wait too long to respond back or to let us know. That'll give us time before the next meeting to formulate a response, to be able to get back to either a citizen or somebody on this committee too. So the faster response we get from this committee, the better we can do to respond to. So that's it.
Thanks, Darren. Paul?
All good.
Melanie, thank you for your time tonight. Councillor Coughlin?
The only thing that I was thinking of is I don't know how much knowledge the community members have of our local facilities, and if when we have a lighter agenda, if having a super quick tour of some of the facilities is a possibility.
Absolutely. The challenge that we have is our meetings are to be open to the public, so we could do a workshop and tour people around, similar to what we did with council members at the start of the term. So we could maybe pick a nice sunny day in May and tour people around on a Saturday, maybe, if that works for people.
I would just suggest poll the committee to see if they may have been in the facilities enough to know. I mean, I don't want to waste anybody's time either.
Yep.
Thank you. Wendy?
I'm good.
Okay, Councillor Bammer?
I'm good, thanks.
Brad?
I'm good tonight, thanks.
Rob?
One thing, does everybody know is everybody familiar with our senior jamborees? Okay, we do a senior jamboree at the Caradoc Community Center once a month. We bring in about 150 people.
last time, yeah.
And it is actually quite an event, so, yeah. So I didn't know if people were aware of it, so I thought I'd just mention it. Other than that, thank you, Chris.
Are we allowed to mention events in this committee,
Events
just for people watching at home?
such as?
Well, we have the Lions Good Friday Brunch coming up on April 7th. We have the Optimist Club Egg Hunt coming up on April the 8th at the Fairgrounds Recreation Complex.
About 400 kids.
And Ward 2 has a egg event as well, April the 8th, I believe, too, with the Mount Bridges Optimist Club. So just want to mention those 2 events. 3 events. Next meeting for this group is Tuesday, April the 11th. It's a Tuesday because the the office is closed on the Monday, so it would be Tuesday, April the 11th. And I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Jagger, seconded by Councilor Wilsey, all in favor? Harry, thank you for watching at home. Good night, and we'll talk to you in April.